Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Dr. Bakari K. Lumumba, back once again for GenerativeLumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction, of course, with Bequaline Network, the Pan African social media extraordinaire, in the home of African centered news and information. And we have a great show for you all. Uh, where we're going to do a deep dive into my personal life a little bit and talk about why I legally changed my name. So if you're watching, family, make sure you hit the subscribe or like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Make sure you hit the hype video as well. And make sure you always donate via the super chat, Venmo, and Cash App. So we can continue to bring you, of course, African centered content and information. Peace to the room. I just got hip to you from that interview with Mr. Anderson. Great way to dissect the misconceptions and falsehoods Black alphabet people disseminate. Appreciation, brother. I definitely appreciate that. Yes, you just talk about that very quickly. Mr. K from the UK. This is a brother who, of course, is from the UK. Made me aware of Mr. Anderson. I didn't know about him. Sent me some videos about some of the misinformation that, of course, he was promoting on his platform, and even in interviews. I said, but I think you need to try to have a colloquy with him, and so I did. One of the things that I think was, at least for me, and I definitely, once again, just want to say I appreciate you for tapping. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. But one of the things that I think for me was really eye opening was the fact that he, as you all could see, and I'm quite sure you saw, was speaking on concepts that he knew nothing about. Shout out to Chocolate City, no doubt. All right, DC in the building. Shout out, okay, very good. DMV in the house. And so that was an issue for me, right? If you're going to have a critique of something, one, you need to have an informed critique, but two, it needs to be an accurate one, and that wasn't the case whatsoever. So we tend to find that this is something in my experience I've never, and once again, I'm one person. This is extreme, completely anecdotal, but I have never met someone who was opposed to Pan Africanism who was actually knowledgeable of the movement, its core tenets, the ideology, and what it stands for ever in my life. So something to, of course, consider there. But I definitely appreciate Northeast grooving. Okay, I presume you're living in the Northeast DC, so definitely want to hold it down for the brothers, of course, in Chocolate City. So, very quickly, family. So, we're gonna when we have this conversation, I want to start my journey by making you all aware of graduated high school 2001, street smart and book smart, but extremely immature. I left home at 17, joined the Navy with my best friend, and I come from the real hood, not the rap hood. Dayton USA, y'all know what it is, right? Um, Long story short, I was voted most likely to be kicked out the Navy doing basic training. And that's exactly what happened about 10 months later. Come home, kind of working odd jobs. As you can imagine, my parents were a bit disappointed because they threw a huge going away party for me um, when I left to go to the Navy. But I eventually decided to re-enlist in the military, in the National Guard. Um, to try to really prove to myself that I was mature enough to do it. But the other issue was also so that I could go to school for free. With that being said, what ended up transpiring is, um, so I started off at a community college, and I knew right away I want to major in Black Studies. So show up, meet with the counselor, um, and I said I want to major in Black Studies. They say why? And I said because I know that I was lied to in school. Um, but as you can imagine, I struggled with knowing how to be a student. My first two semesters, I had a zero point 0.6 cum, right? I was going to drop out, met a doctor by the name of Dr. Boykatwe, Pan Africanist. He's from Liberia. And he really put me on game, right? So I ended up joining an organization called Able Youth Leaders. Now, mind you, at the time, I'm not thinking about anything close to changing my name, anything like that in any way, shape, or form. I'm simply trying to learn how to be a competent student, and I want to be involved in something that is Black or African centered. I don't know what that is because I haven't seen it, but I'm looking for it. When I saw Dr. Tway, I knew that was the case. I had initially joined the African American Culture Club, but it was just ghetto. So I said, I know this isn't what I'm looking for because I've been around this my entire life. I joined Able Youth Leaders Alliance for the Betterment of Leadership and Education. They were operating under Kawaii philosophy, right? Some of the work, of course, Dr. Malana Karinga, who's the founder of Kwanzaa, this concept of Black cultural nationalism, using the best of our culture, of course, in a contemporary setting to improve the lives of African people throughout the world. Um, so when I get there, I'm cracking jokes. And mind you, I was like, what, 22? Other people in the organization, I'm probably 18, 19, maybe 20. And I'm cracking jokes. They immediately say, "Hey, we don't do that here." And these are all black people. So I knew it right there. I'll say, "This is a serious organization. These are serious people." So I joined the organization. Um, in a year's time, I became, of course, the president of the organization. So we did a number of things. We did violence prevention, Black history, tutoring in the PJs. Some people may know the PJs are. We call that the projects, all into course projects in particular. We did, of course, Kwanzaa in the community, citywide Kwanzaa, pre-Kwanzaa. We did things for Black history. We even created the inaugural African World Film Festival right here, of course, in Dayton, Ohio. That was able to actually have a consortium between, of course, Dayton Public Schools, the city of Dayton, to actually have children on that Friday afternoon while school is in session come downtown at the Neon Theater and watch a series of movies. So we even had a full write up done in the local paper. So they did some great work. Um, but the more I was learning, right, I took Introduction to Black Studies one, Introduction to Black Studies two. I take African American history, and so the more I'm learning, Survey of African History, so on and so forth. I came to the conclusion that hey, I want to change my name, right? And I posted, of course, a picture of my actual documentation from the court. There were some people who were claiming you did that because you were ashamed of your ethnic group and you disowned your father. Of course, all of these are nonsensical takes or positions, but we would address that. So when I made that decision, at first my parents were particularly my father was a bit taken aback. My father had named my brother and I that we all had the same initials. And I think my father thought that this maybe was a rejection of him. So we had to sit down and have a conversation. I let my father know, if I was a junior, my brother's the oldest boy, but I said if I was a junior rather than my brother, I would name myself Bakari K. Lumumba II in honor of you. But at the time, one of the fears my parents had was, is he going to go off the deep end? They would say, become a radical and do something that would be self-destructive. Is he going to try to hurt or harm someone? Is he going to try to damage some type of infrastructure? And he's going to spend a large amount of time of his life behind the wall, as many people would say, in prison. And I know that because one of my uncles shared the same story, that we were afraid that maybe you were going to go off the deep end and do something that would be self-destructive. So that's something I think is understandable from a familial standpoint, from a family standpoint, but also from a parent standpoint as well. But of course, that didn't happen. My road, my trajectory was via academia. And, my dad later came to me and said, hey, I was wrong. You were right. You knew exactly what you were doing. And he let me know that he was very proud of me. So for those of the people who would say I was rejecting my father had an issue with it, that isn't the case at all. So we end up, so I remember it probably took me about, I would say maybe about 8 months to decide on the name. So, we're going to break this down. Bakari, of course, is Kiswahili. We know that Kiswahili is considered a Pan-African language because it's one of the few African languages that is not tied to a particular ethnic group and is spoken throughout many regions of Africa, particularly East Africa, Central Africa, and of course, Southern Africa, and even Northeastern Africa near the Horn. So because of that, many view this as a Pan-African language. And so Bakari is a Swahili word, and the literal interpretation of Bakari is one who will succeed. Kamani, my middle name, of course, is Swahili as well, and that name means king or great man. And then, of course, Lumumba for Patrice Lumumba, Patrice Emery Lumumba. Many of you may be aware he was the first legally elected prime minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And, of course, we know, unfortunately, he was assassinated due to the, collusion of the British, Belgian, and American governments along with the United Nations. And that's what's extremely unfortunate there. What we also know is that Malcolm X, when the world learned of Patrice Lumumba's assassination a month later, February of 1961, Malcolm X led a actual press conference at the United Nations. And in that press conference, he said that Patrice Lumumba was the greatest Black man to ever walk the African continent. And so I, like many of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, chose to take the name of our great ancestor, to honor, of course, his legacy, his work, and his commitment to our people. So I took on the last name Lumumba. Quick, quick, quick side note: I can recall when my son was 6 years old, because we have a large 24 by 36 of Patrice Lumumba in a home. And I can recall my son stating to me, I am very happy that you changed your name. And I said, well, why? And he says, because if you didn't change your name, I would have a slave name. My son said this to me, so something to consider there. So then, of course, I decided in November of '07, and then I did enough research to where in July of '08, I was able to move forward. So I go downtown Dayton, probate court, and they give me the paperwork. Right, you fill out the paperwork. You have to give, of course, a written reason why you're changing your name, and then about 6 to 8 weeks later, you come back and have the actual hearing. Um, in the actual hearing, one of the things that takes place is they ask you why you changed your name. So now you have to give a verbal reason on record in the court. So I explained why for cultural reasons. We understand that. Matter of fact, I want to share this with you all. This is something I've oftentimes shared with my students in week 4 when I'm teaching African American history. Week 4, of course, a lesson, but this process of dis-Africanization. So really pushing back against this process of dis-Africanization, reclaiming what was taken. So this is, of course, coming from Dr. Ali Mazui in his seminal text, The Africans of Triple Heritage. In this book, I think there are about two chapters in the book that he dedicates to the African diaspora. And one of the things he talks about is that during one of the prominent strategies of slavery was to make captives forget as soon as possible where they came from, what he calls contrived amnesia. This was a 5-step process of dis-Africanization. First was the removal of personal identity. Enslaved Africans could not carry the names of their own cultures, Yoruba, Mandinka, Iwe, Wolof, etc. Removal of collective identity. One ceased being Africans and became niggers or Negroes. Removal of collective pride. African nostalgia was undermined and destroyed by perpetual negative indoctrination. Being a slave was seen as deliverance from savage and primitive Africa, and one became thus ashamed of where they come from. This is, of course, analogous to Malcolm X when he talks about you can't hate the roots of a tree, you can't hate your origin, you can't hate where you come from without, of course, hating yourself. And Malcolm talked about that. Those who had enslaved and colonized us were very skillful in making sure that they promoted a negative view of where we came from, so that, of course, we would not only hate who we are, but look to whites for, of course, leadership. And that is what we call racial deference. Removal of religious beliefs, right? Traditional religious beliefs survived less in the U.S. than in Brazil and the Caribbean. Once again, this concept not only of cultural deference, but even of religious deference, right? This concept that this was done to, of course, help me. Then, of course, and most abusers will tell you that they're abusing you because they're trying to help you, right? And then last but not least, linguistic removal. African language use ceased as the enslaved learned the language of their master, right? So this is why, of course, brothers and sisters speak Portuguese in Brazil. This is why, of course, we speak English in America, and of course, why brothers and sisters speak French or Haitian Creole in Haiti. So something to consider there. So I was aware of this, and so I was literally moved to do something about it. And I wanted to make sure that I did not give my children a slave name. That was a motivating factor as well. So we have the ceremony, and if anyone has ever watched the movie Sankofa, right? Uh, let's see here, secret meeting. So there's a scene in the movie Sankofa where they're having like this meeting, of course, in the woods, in the forest. But the film, of course, was directed by Haile Gramera, who, of course, was the Ethiopian filmmaker, and of course, we know that he is an Ethiopian. So that would be an example. Once again, the Pan Africanism not being one-sided, because Ethiopia was not ravaged or affected by the transatlantic slave trade, but yet he's paying homage and respect for, of course, what we experience here in the decadence and dysphoria of course, the Western world. And so there's a scene where they're having a secret society, these meetings in the forest. And of course, and part of this is they're having naming ceremonies where they're taking back their African identity, right? And taking on African names that were stripped from them, either, of course, when they arrived in America, or they're being given African names by the elders in the community because the child was given a Western or European name as a result of their parents being enslaved, right? So that's a powerful scene in the movie Sankofa. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. And then also, if anyone is interested in doing a naming ceremony, uh, Dr. Naeem Akbar's book, Breaking the Psychological Chains of Slavery. And let me bring this up here on the screen because I have the book, Breaking the Psychological slavery by Dr. Naeem Akbar. He is in the book, at the end of the book, he has a actual naming ceremony in there. I purchased this book way back in 2009. So let me bring this up for you all, family. Way back in 2009. So yes, in the book, they actually have a naming ceremony script. So if you want to do this as in the community, right, amongst you, your family, or the community, brothers and sisters, you actually have a template. So Breaking the Psychological Chains of Slavery by Dr. Naeem Akbar, right? So great book here, actually very accurate. If you read the book, you would know that what he's saying is true because he speaks to a lot of experiences that we've had. Um, yeah, so that's something to consider. But then let's talk about the community reaction to me changing my name. So I was in the National Guard at the time, made my captain, first sergeant aware of my legal name change. And when I showed up the drill, there was people, black people telling me, well, you're not going to be able to get a job because of your name, right? So we see this internalized self-hatred, this belief that if you embrace who and what you are, particularly here in the Western world, you will be shunned and denied find the ability to what? Develop and grow socioeconomically. So that's one of the things that is typically going to use to try to prevent black people from embracing the history, heritage, and culture, but also overall to create this concept and belief that being black or being proud of who you are somehow associated with something negative, right? So of course I pushed back against that. Um, and then of course I was able to be successful, go on matriculate through a number of universities, have a PhD and of course have a career. But I think one of the things that we definitely want to consider, last but not least, this concept of being ashamed of my ethnic group, right? Is absolutely nonsensical. We know that there is a large assortment of not only African Americans, but even African people in the diaspora who've changed the name. One will be Stokely Carmichael, who changed the name to Kwame Ture to honor, of course, Kwame Nkrumah and, of course, Sekou Toure. We could look at Malcolm X, for example, Muhammad Ali, who, of course, was Cassius Clay. We could look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was at one point known as Luau Sindor Jr., right? So there's a long history of Assad Shakur, for example, who was born Joanne Chesmere, right? Chesmere. So there's a large history of African Americans, African people in the diaspora as a whole, changing their names, understanding that the names that we have are a byproduct or a derivative of the Holocaust of enslavement. There's a byproduct of deculturalization, this Africanization. And this is an example of us, of course, doing what? Taking back and being proud of our history, heritage, and culture, and not seeking to be pathological adjuncts to the white man and his wife, right? We, as Dr. Malana Karenga would always say, we are the fathers and mothers of humanity and human civilization. There is no reason why we should play the cultural children of the world. And many of you may be aware, there's of course, a video where Malcolm X was being interviewed in Chicago. And they asked Malcolm X's name. He says, my name is Malcolm X. My father, he talks about my father didn't know his last name. His name was given to the slave master, that's given to his grandfather, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's something that I was, of course, cognizant of as well. So so tap in, family. Definitely want to hear from you all. I'm going to put the link in the chat if you have any thoughts, comments about and last but not least, Lumumba means gifted, right? That is the actual meaning of the word Lumumba. So Bakari Kamani Lumumba. Bakari means king, one who will succeed. Kamani means king, a great man. Then of course Lumumba means gifted. So I took that name in honor of course, the late great Patrice Emery Lumumba, who was of course the first legally elected prime minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So and also I kind of talked about this before. I had actual icebreaker video that I did with Toastmasters, Dayton, downtown Dayton, where I discussed my name change there, and it's on the platform. You just go in, put in Bakari Lumumba Toastmasters, and it would come up. So this is not something I've ever heard from anyone. Of course, there were some individuals who were ADOS who were trying to argue that maybe I was a fraud or so on and so forth, but that's not the case at all. Also, I think one of the things that one should consider is when we talk about this process of changing my name, I can recall there was a brother I went to undergrad with who was posting some of my work, article that I had wrote on TikTok, and highlighting African culture, attention, African American culture, etc. And what ended up taking place was someone said, well, he changed his name, but he's an African American, he's an African name, and they said that I sold out my lineage. And so someone said, well, selling out means you receive some type of financial benefit or compensation. That makes no sense whatsoever. I even recall my uncle, my youngest uncle, on my mother's side, telling me when I changed my name that, you know, this is really maybe an issue for you because now them folks are going to know that you're someone who's politically and socially conscious. You are aware of what's going on in society, and they may view you as a threat. So something to consider there. And then, of course, there was a brother on the TikTok thread who said, well, so he should want to have a slave name, right? So it's really nonsensical, but a lot of this, of course, is rooted in trying to be white adjacent. Some of this, of course, is individuals promoting a historical or negative, excuse me, narrative in which there's a view, knowingly or unknowingly, that what our history, heritage, and culture began, excuse me, in America and not in Africa. We know that, of course, that is adverse to facts. If you don't believe me, you can cite the work of course, the two fathers of Black history, Dr. John Hope Franklin, and of course, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. So, Mr. Sandman, happy Pan African Saturday to you. I'm thinking about changing my name to the ethnic group that my ancestors came from. Overstood, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and it was only $160. Yeah, so I filled out the paperwork, went down there, paid the 160, and then of course you have a hearing in about 6 to 8 weeks. Then they give you documentation so that you could go get a different driver license, social security card, everything like that, so that people will know that what you're doing isn't fraudulent. So, but they do ask the question why, because they want to make sure you're not, excuse me, doing things for fraudulent reasons. There are some individuals who may be trying to evade arrest, right? Evade the carceral state. There may be individuals who may owe a significant amount of money. So something to consider there. But it's my story, brief video, brief live. But I just wanted to address that because there were some people in the comments on my Dave Anderson video talking about that. But it's not something I've ever heard. It's something I share with all my students. Like I said, I have videos online that speak to this issue about the how and the why I did it. Once again, all you have to do is go to your county probate court and file the documentation. Matter of fact, now I remember vividly when we finished the hearing, the judge came down, shook my hand, and said that there have been a lot of African Americans lately who have been changing their names for cultural, historical, and political reasons. And this was a white guy. He shook my hand, said congratulations. And I remember I was just very proud, and I can even recall at the hearing, at the ceremony that we had with Dr. Sway in his office, at the Able Youth Leaders meeting. Just very, very powerful, very powerful. But like I said, it was indicative of the scene in the movie Sankofa. If you haven't seen the movie Sankofa, you definitely need to do so. But once again, family, the link is in the description. The link's in the chat. Would love to hear from you all. But regarding the issue, do you have any questions, concerns? Definitely want to hear from you all regarding, of course, why I legally changed my name. As a matter of fact, there were some individuals who said, well, you could just go by a pseudonym. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And literally, and so many of you may not know what my name used to be, so I'm going to put it in the chat here. But yeah, I said that doesn't work for me. I said I have to rid myself of this colonial or this white hegemonic, of course, name. And so yeah, so this was my name before, family. So it doesn't even suit me, as many people would say. But definitely want to hear from you all. Let's see here. When you get a chance, can you point me in the direction of some of your academic published works or any upcoming works? Yes. So what you can do is you can go to Google Scholar. Yeah, you could go to Google Scholar. Let me see here. Yeah, you can go to Google Scholar. Give me 1 second, Mr. Sandman. I'll link you in. So you could put Bakari Lumumba Google Scholar in the search engine on Google. Okay. And then what will come up is all of my publications. Okay, so you can see anti-blackness in American higher education, why I'm critical theory, which is one of my favorites. Is Pan-Africanism dead? The relevancy of Garveyism in the 21st century, the politics of Black self-determination in Southeastern United States, Black culture centers in the racial space, which I published last year. And then, of course, on an intersectional ground, examining the efficacy of Black culture centers in the age of intersectionality, African American education for liberation in 21st century America, from critical theory to Black power, and then, of course, Travis Hunter and the move towards Black power. So those are my academic journals, academic publications, which are, let me see, how many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 publications in higher education. So definitely would love to. If you get a chance, check that out. You can read my work and let me know what you think. What's up, world? Absolutely. Um, 100. Appreciate it. Yeah. Sandman, what's the word?
Hey, what's the word? Happy Pan African Saturday to you, Dr. Lumumba.
Hey, I appreciate it. Happy Pan African Saturday to you as well. But still holding down a 215. I know it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was in watching that video or the interview that you had with Dave Anderson. Um I was thinking about what he was saying in regards to changing your last name and how you disregard your lineage. And that's part of the analytical process that I was thinking about in regards to changing my name, because I was contemplating that as well.
Yeah.
Aside
And,
from it,
and here's the thing. You like I said before, African Americans throughout history, Hakiar Madabuti, who was the founder of course, Third World Press, changed his name, right? So there's a long history of African Americans changing their name, not because they're seeking to disavow or disassociate it with their ethnic group, right? But because we know that the names that we have are derivative of the Holocaust of enslavement, and that's not something one should take pride in.
yes,
From an
absolutely.
African, well, let me say this: it's not something that one would take pride in if they have an African-centered frame of reference. I'll put it that way.
Yes, absolutely. But I was thinking about it in terms of legal ramifications. If there is, this outside possibility that, we could be awarded reparations for the Holocaust of enslavement, would changing our name possibly make it more difficult.
Well,
Uh,
no, because once again, your name changes on file with the probate court, right? And they give you copies. Like literally, they ask you when you had a hearing before you even had the hearing, they would call you and ask you how many copies do you want of your name change. So I just have a copy on file in my safe.
yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? You
Plus
have
you
your
also
birth
have
certificate.
your birth certificate as
Yeah,
well.
and then so you have like the original birth certificate, then you have like a computerized one where it would say, okay, name change on file, name changed on this date. Like all of that stuff is documented, even on your birth certificate.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
so
think
it wouldn't adversely affect you.
yeah, I think that's maybe what Mr. Anderson was possibly contemplating, that um, to delineate ourselves from the rest of the African diaspora, so that you have legal, um, I don't know, precedents to say that, hey, we do deserve reparations, because we have not only have we gone through the incarceration of
Hmm.
slavery throughout our heritage, but we've also accepted, that incarceration, as defined by the way who what you call us today by our
Well, well,
titles.
so here's the thing: you don't have to delineate from other black people to get reparations. Let me ask you this: did you have to delineate from other black people when you filed your taxes?
No, I did not.
Right.
Mm-mm.
I mean,
No.
it's like once again, this is a solution in search of a problem. None of the claims that these people make are factual whatsoever. If you are an African American and you go and file, and yes, say America says, hey, we're going to provide reparations in which you have free education and you don't have to pay taxes. All you have to do is what? Show up and provide documentation to substantiate that you're an African American. That is that simple. You don't have to disassociate with anyone to do that. You don't have to disassociate with anyone to get your driver's license. You don't have to disassociate with anyone to join the military, right? You don't have to disassociate with anyone to join my YouTube channel. Like I said, these individuals are psyops, and as Brother Neferkari T. Dessalines says on his platform, this is nothing more than a penis measuring contest in which where they want to say my ethnic group is better than yours. That's it. It's a form of Americanized tribalism.
Yeah, and
That's
I
it.
agree.
Now, let me ask you a question. Did Japanese people have to disassociate with other Asian people who, when they got, we could call it reparations or an indemnity from the U.S. government for being placed in internment camps? Did they have to say, we got to run around and say, I ain't got nothing to do with other Asian Americans? No.
Mm.
So wait, let me read this. Mr. K from the UK. Hey, Dr. Lumumba, I wonder if Dave Anderson would accuse Malcolm X for disowning his language and for changing his name to both an Islamic name and African name. Right. I don't get how someone wanted to change the last name that was superimposed on your ancestors is disassociating yourself from your direct lineage. Yeah, because this is it's a form of what, seeking to be white adjacent. That's the reality. These are individuals who want to be as adjacent or in proximity to whiteness or white people, what they perceive to be whiteness, as possible. That's the reality of the situation. Yeah. Make sure y'all hit the subscribe and like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Make sure you hit the hype button as well. Y'all know what it is. It's LumumbaSpeaks.com, Black Empowerment Initiative, where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction once again with Bequaline Network, the Pan African Social Media Extraordinaire, and the home of African centered news and information. Yes, absolutely. It's a form of Stockholm syndrome, yes, where you identify with what? The individuals who have harmed you, the individuals who have captured you, the individuals who have enslaved you, rather than, of course, yourself. And so we know that this is based on what, a bank robbery that took place in Stockholm, Sweden. I think Stockholm is the capital of Sweden or Denmark, one of the two. I mean, I'm not great with European geography, right? I'm always on the continent, right? Um, Home is where your heart is, as they say. And what ended up taking place, if you all are familiar with Stockholm syndrome, and many of you may be aware, I did a show on, of course, do Black people suffer from Stockholm syndrome probably about a year ago. The individuals were held hostage for maybe 2 or 3 days. When they were finally were released, the detectives were shocked by the fact that the individuals were actually sympathetic and identifying with the cause of the people who held them hostage, right? Their captors. So we definitely see this in our community as well. Absolutely. So but there would be no legal ramifications whatsoever. Dr. Moon, but to be honest with you, trying not to laugh at Dave Anderson's fallacious talking points. Be honest with you. Yes, well, it was, I was, so one was trying not to laugh. Two, I wanted to be very serious, and then at times it was just, I was just taken aback, like, dude, you're just making stuff up. Like, when he made the claim that Jesse Jackson was trying to do trade with African nations, right? He couldn't substantiate the claim, because this is what these individuals do. They just make stuff up. 19 Keys, right? Tariq Nasheed, David Banner. All of these individuals are grifters. They just literally go around making stuff up. And since people never heard it before, they think the guy is some type of not oracle, some type of sage, right? So this is what we're dealing with. Extremely unfortunate. But these are individuals who show, in my opinion, they have no care or concern for the Black community. Because if you actually care about a community, you would do your due diligence to make sure that you're providing factual information to them. So once again, it's all a grift. It's all about making money. But yeah, absolutely nonsensical. And so what I noticed, and somebody even mentioned this in the comment section, he just wants to be an entertainer. This is just for effect. He's not a serious individual whatsoever. He's about one thing, and that's making money. I think he may be actually be successful at being a serial entrepreneur, but when it comes to Black activism, not the case whatsoever. One of the questions I meant to ask and I didn't, because pushing the reparations button, a talking point was, what work have you done to actually engage sitting politicians to actually support reparations, right? And I didn't get to that question because I just saw that it was a waste of time. Because anytime I asked him a question, he wouldn't answer the question. He would just try to go on a tangent, right? He would just try to provide a monologue like a Marvel Comics villain. And that's when I saw that that's typically what he does. Let me just go on a tangent. Let me just begin a monologue rather than actually answering the question, because I don't have an answer to the question, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Mind you, this is a guy who did not know what the term diaspora meant, right? And I saw that when he did that interview with the brother, the pleasantly plump brother from Haiti, but the pleasantly plump brother from Haiti did not, he was a young brother, so he was able to get that off from him. But I'm him, not them, and so that wasn't going to happen over here. A
Un-
question, Mr. Sandman, why would suspect Dave Anderson was from West Philly, not North Philly? Yeah, so you say that he was from West Philly, not North Philly, or something like that. Why did you say that, Mr. Sandman?
Oh, because typically people from West Philly, um every section of Philadelphia has like a certain characterization in the way that they act, or the characters that they portray themselves to be. And people from North Philadelphia tend to be like more conservative in the way that they conduct themselves. Like, it's more like street oriented in the way that they conduct themselves. So, when you're more street oriented, you gotta, you know, you can't talk too much trash and play too many games, because that could get you, your head bust. But in West
Exactly.
Philadelphia, you could talk more. You could talk more hustle. You can hustle a little bit more and talk more trash. So
Let,
not
let, let
not
me ask
that
you this.
not that
Let, let me ask you this
not that you
question real quick, Mr. Sandman. Would you
uh
argue that West Philadelphia has more of a suburban feel than North and South Philly?
yeah, it depends on what parts of Philadelphia you're talking about. Like West Philadelphia, if you talk about close to the City Line Avenue, it's
Hmm.
more like a lot of Jewish Americans still reside out there. If you like, I know part people with my family, like my grandparents, they raised my parents and my aunts and uncles in North Philadelphia. But as they started to get more opportunities financially, economically, we started to branch out from North Philadelphia, and I have uncles that bought houses out in West Philadelphia that was more affluent. So it's a
Hmm.
little bit more of an affluent area in certain parts, but in certain parts of it is still very hood as well. So, and I recall he saying that he was from Germantown, but
Hmm.
Germantown is a little bit more. It's northwestern Philadelphia, but you could still
Right.
consider it northern Philadelphia. But
No, no,
you
yeah,
know,
he said he was
you
from Northeast Philly. He said he was from Northeast Philly.
okay, yeah, northeast Philadelphia is like is predominantly white. So
Yeah, no, that I
yeah,
do know.
mhm. There's a lot of
Shout out to the Illidale, though.
Irish
Shout out
and
to the Illidale.
Italians, a lot of
Yeah,
Irish and
shout
Italian
out to
people
the
live out there.
shout out. Yeah, shout out to the Illidale. So Black Nerd Talks 7921. You state, I was always wondering this. We will need to come back to this at a later time. Salute, Doc. Appreciate you, brother. What are you referring to when you say I was always wondering this? I'm definitely Northeast grooving. Appreciate, saying the love. Of course, we definitely want to give praise to the ancestor, Dr. Joseph Winham. I appreciate you, brother. He got his doctorate in history from Howard University. Very good. Yeah, Black Nerd Talk. Definitely want to hear what you got, what you were referring to here. Yeah, absolutely. So once again, so here's the thing, and I remember Dr. Trey told me, he says, if you change your name, your family's going to be, there's going to be a lot of people in your family who are going to be mad at you. So when that took place, but of course I was prepared for that because he made me aware that this is something that you're going to face. Because for a lot of our people who, suffering from Stockholm syndrome have been brainwashed, they just don't understand why one would do that, right? You then we talk about, of course, as Malcolm X stated, we have White's disease, right? We view being African as something negative or primitive or backward. So many would look at what the French toast are you doing. So now, of course, my family views it in a very positive light, but it's something I knew I had to do for myself, and I knew that I did not want my children to have to carry on that legacy because my original surname, as I shared with you all in the chat, was German. Black people are not indigenous to Germany, right? So that means that there was a German family that owned my family, which of course we know is extremely unfortunate, or at least yeah, German family. So definitely, family, tap in or share your comments. You're watching, of course, LumumbaSpeaks.com, Black Empowerment Initiative, where we believe we can gain the competitive advantage by always betting on Black in conjunction, of course, with Bequine Network, the Pan African Social Media Extraordinaire, and the home of African Centered News and Information. Make sure you hit the hype button, hit the thumbs up button, hit that notification bell, like, subscribe, share, and of course, donate so we continue to provide you with African centered, of course, content here in these YouTube streets. So, final questions, family, before, of course, I call it an evening. Final questions before I call it an evening regarding why I legally changed my name to of course, Bakari K. Lumumba. I want to hear from you all before, of course, we call it an evening. And if you're watching on Twitter, of course, you can, of course, put comments, of course, in the chat there, or of course, you could tap in here on YouTube as well. So, Mr. Sandman, have you talked to your wife and your family about possibly changing your name?
I haven't gotten into it, too in depthly about changing my name or telling my wife and my family that I planned on changing my name. Um, I think my wife is more indoctrinated with American culture in terms of like being a Christian and things of that nature because she has deep roots not only in southeastern United States, but also in the northeastern United States, and then also she has some background in Caribbean blood as well. So she hasn't really bored into the whole Pan African um, uh, culture, so to speak. But yeah, it's something interesting that we want that I wanted to bring up, and then that's a possibility that, of course, as the leader of the family, then of course your word tends to be final in certain cases. But my son, he's actually becoming an adult anyway, so he can change his name legally if he wants to anyway. So and similar to what you did when you were what, your early 20s. So
Yeah, I was
yeah,
24. Yeah, I was 24.
right,
24. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Real,
So
real
but
quickly, very
mhm.
quickly, Mr. K from the UK says, Mr. Sandman, Dr. Lumumba, curious, tell me what you know about Temple University. I asked, as Dave Anderson claimed he's a professor there. So, what I know about Temple University is, it's really the home, many people argue the home that, of course, Dr. Malefi Santi Sr. built, right? We know that he created the first PhD program in Black Studies. He's now head of the Department of Ecology, of course, at Temple University, and he's chaired over 80, I think 85 last time I checked, dissertations. So he's really him, not them. I argue that he's the Michael Jordan of course, Black Studies. But once again, one of the sisters, she stated that, he stated that he was the only professor who had a 5-star rating on Rate My Professor. I'm gonna rate my professor as well. I don't have a 5-star rating, but that's for a number of reasons. But the sister said that she believed that the ratings were fake because they were all done in around the same time, and that they were rated in the manner they were written were generic. So go ahead, Mr. Sandman. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, what I know about Temple University, and Temple University is not far from where I grew up at in North Philadelphia. It's right off of Cecil B. Moore area in North Philadelphia, off of in Broad Street area where most of the campus is located, and they also have like a large hospital there. But in terms of the school, I mean, it's not easy to get into that school. I wouldn't say that. I'm not sure if it's private or public, but I recall when I graduated high school, if you weren't, in the top percentile of the students in your class GPA wise, then you probably weren't going to get accepted, or either that or you were also an excellent athlete. So
Hmm.
because it's a Division 1 college, where I think Kobe Bryant's family went there, attended that school. So
Well, his dad
yeah, I
went to
think
LaSalle.
who went to LaSalle.
Yeah, Kobe's dad went to LaSalle.
Oh, right. Yeah, but I think his older sister, who was also a talented volleyball player,
Okay.
she attended Temple University. So yeah, it's a challenging university. It's not for the kids who, it's not like what do you call it? Like a community college or anything like that. You definitely have to have brains to attend there. That from my understanding. But
Absolutely.
they have a decent alumni. Yeah, they don't just accept anybody. So even though it's right in the middle of the hood, you have to have some chops with you academically to get in there. And then yeah, because it's right in the chops of North Philadelphia, they also have like a lot of younger white kids who might, you know, start going to that school as well. So they'll have to relocate to that area. So you'll see like an influx of young white kids who attend the school, and then because they're so close to the hood, they might travel into the hood to get extracurricular pharmaceuticals as well. So it's an interesting dynamic in at Temple University. But recently, I found out that they have a really strong African studies program. So
Yeah, yeah,
I wish that
yeah,
was
I just
something I
read
was
that.
more aware of.
Yeah. So let me get to the comments here. What do you think about using ACE institutions? I don't know what ACE institutions are to push your name in as a cultural service announcement campaign. Also, can I send you my ACE institution development concept website for critique? Sure. My email, of course, Bakari Lumumba, INC at gmail.com. How long did it take you to start referring, thinking on yourself as your previous name? I had already stopped before it was even legal. So I had already started going by Bakari publicly, right? I was just waiting for it legally to have taken place. So, yeah, it was rather immediate for me. Here's a question. If any of your relatives are religious, how did they take the name change? And did you outright announce it or sprinkle in the idea? So, yeah, I just announced it. Yeah. So I think that when all of my relatives in my family found out we were having, I was at my grandparents' house for what they would call Thanksgiving. I call it Holiday Hell Day. Um, we know for Native Americans, it's considered a national day of mourning. And so they was calling my old name. And I said, oh, no, I have an announcement. I have to make everyone aware. I've legally changed my name. My name is now Bakari K. Lumumba. So, everybody was just taken aback and everything like that. But I just had to make people aware. But now with my best friend and his family, they were very happy for me. Because, as I said it before, when I got kicked out of the Navy, I really was struggling in terms of identity. I was running the streets. I had become a miscreant um, for a couple of years. There was a time where I was out committing felonies, right? And luckily, I was never convicted of any felonies, but I was arrested on numerous occasions. And so they saw that, he's starting to find some direction in his life, right? And I remember my best friend was like, you were always pro-black, even when we were in elementary school. He was like, this is who you were supposed to be all along. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see here. Peace. Shout out to Wasoni and Garveyite. So it has a very strong work ethic, academic wise. Yes. Yeah. African centered education. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Temple is ranked, I think, like 100 to 102 in the country in terms of U.S. News World Report. So yes. African centered education. Yes. So I just go back to your comment. Um, what do you think about using African education institutions to push rename as a culture service announcement campaign? Yeah, I'm all for it. The ABLE was an African centered organization, and that's where I kind of got the idea, right? And so I think it's important for us, to at least let people know that this is what transpired, this is what happened. That if you do make that decision, you will not be in the minority. There's a long history of African Americans doing so. So, any other thoughts? Any other questions before we wrap things up? I definitely appreciate everyone tapping in here on a Saturday evening. Here, matter of fact, I would be remiss if I don't mention today is of course the 1st of August. So we definitely want to celebrate Black August. Many of you may be aware that there are a number of seminal events that took place in the month of August. Of course, the Haitian Revolution. We talk about the creation of hip hop, the birth of Marcus Garvey, the Nat Turner insurrection. We're talking about Benjamin Banneker writing his, of course, retort against Thomas Jefferson's white supremacist ideas in his book, My Thoughts on the State of Virginia, Notes from the State of Virginia, a number, of course, of events that took place. Matter of fact, let me see if I can bring this up here. Do I got my? Give me 1 second, family. Got to find uh, my USB here. Yeah, so I got my USB because I think I have a brief PowerPoint on Black August. So I want to share this with you all. Um, let's see here. Yeah, I think I have a brief. Yes, let's see here. Open this up. Leadership retreat. Yes. We talk about Black August. Yes, we talk about, of course, honoring Black August. So definitely want to make sure we do everything that we can to honor, of course, our ancestors. Kobe Bryant being born, of course, in the month of August would be an example of Black August as well. So definitely want to make sure that we honor Black August, and that we want to make sure that we are revolutionary every day. Absolutely, right, the Montgomery River Boat Brawl. That we're revolutionary every day and every month, but we also want to make sure that we are absolutely revolutionary in the month of course, August. So I subscribe, so I'll be tuned in for future videos. I definitely appreciate that Northeast grooving. This is the month Jamaican sound system culture was introduced to the UK, Caribbean, Notting Hill Carnival 1973. Absolutely. Also, 1 August is the day it's considered Emancipation Day in Jamaica. That was the day that slavery was eradicated. In fact, we know 1 August 1914, it was a Marcus Garvey and Amy Ashwood Garvey created the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League in Kingston, Jamaica. Shout out to Jamrock, right? Your birthday is the 16th of August, same as one of what Marcus Messiah Garvey. So there's a lot that, of course, that's taking place in the month of August. And I want to make sure that I have all of this squared away when we're making our Black History facts, right? Because as many of you may be aware, we have, of course, our Black History facts, our daily Black History facts, right? So I want to make sure that I do everything that I can so that we're updated throughout the month on Black history in the month of August, as in all months, but definitely in the month of August, because right here we believe in always betting on Black. So once again, family, a final call for questions, comments regarding, of course, why I legally changed my name. Okay, celebration in Queens is happening. Absolutely. So definitely want to hear from you all. Last call for questions or comments before we, of course, call it an evening. Of course, as we're discussing why I legally changed my name. As I said before, there were some individuals who said you could just have a surname and kind of go by this in the community. And I said, no, this is important for me. This has to be something that is real, something that's legal. I knew I wanted to have children one day. As I said it to you all before, my son, when he was 6 years old, said that he was proud of me for changing my name so that he did not have of course, a slave name. So I definitely wanted to make sure I
Um,
was able to give that to my children. Mr. Sandman, go right ahead.
yeah, I had one question in regards to changing your name. Did that have any? Did that stem from your decision to become an atheist?
No, that was completely separate. It had nothing to do with it.
Okay, because you would say that part of the cultural um changing. I'm not sure the terminology that you used when they stripped us of our culture as Africans. Part of that stripping of our culture was turning us into Christians, so
Yes,
that we can
absolutely.
yeah.
Very, very
So I
true.
was
And so,
wondering.
part of our, in traditional African societies, there's no concept of an atheist or agnostic. So that is something that is not part of our history, heritage, and culture to be someone who's atheist, agnostic. But my decision was strictly cultural, political, and social in nature.
Okay, so to become it, you said cultural, as in terms of
In terms
becoming.
of the name change,
Oh,
my reason
okay.
for the name change was cultural, political, social, and of course historical in nature.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. Well, family, I appreciate you all for tapping in. Until next time, y'all know what to do. Make sure you always bet on Black. Peace.
Peace.
Before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you for supporting the channel. And remember, here at Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on Black. Peace.